Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Graeme Hyde from Lloyds Register, and I want to quickly today go through some of the different projects and things that we have worked. Introduction of who Lloyds Register is, in case some of you have not met us before, and then talk a little bit about regulations. Okay, so Lloyds Register has actually been around for a little while. I'm sure some of you have heard the stories of the coffee house shop and all the rest of it. But we've actually been in the United States even longer than people realize. We first had surveyors that were listed here way back in 1704. One of the things Lloyds Register is very good at is keeping records. So in 1774, we actually had surveyors in all the key ports looking after basically ships coming in that needed surveys. We've been full ACP compliant for the Coast Guard since 2004. So we do have an alternative to other class societies, and we're able to help our clients understand and also meet the challenges. So some of the questions that we're talking about today is, what's happening with the industry right now? Well, there's lots of things happening, as you're starting to hear. The challenges, obviously, the main challenge it comes from regulation. IMO have some aggressive targets for 2030 and 2050, and actually those targets will probably get tougher. There's already discussion in IMO talking about they will actually go from 50% to maybe 75% by 2050. And that's just a huge challenge. Technology is moving along with digitalization, but there's lots of things that people are having to focus on. It's not just the vessels, it's training the crew, it's ensuring that we have the right people in the place, and also the infrastructure. So like I said, what it means for you, most people are concerned. There are companies that we work with at the moment that are trying to meet the challenges, but it's like anything else. It's like murky water sometimes, and again, this is all new. So some of the stuff that Lloyds Register has been involved in, and this is recent, I mean, we go all the way back to actually we classed the first hydrogen propulsed ferry, which was quite a small ferry at the time, but it was actually built to Lloyd's class. To now, these are some of the more modern projects that we're working on. They're in different fuels. They're not all the same fuel either. So we have here a hydrogen tug that's actually going to be based in Hamburg. This has already been launched, and it's in its final fit-out stage. And this is going to operate, as I said, in Hamburg. The Castor initiative, that's quite a big initiative, and that's between multi-partners. As you can see on the diagram, it's about choosing the right people to get involved in to come up with the solutions. But the Castor project is actually for big tankers that will be running on ammonia. We already methanol. We have the world's first methanol-powered ferry. Methanol is particularly talked about in Europe. As somebody I was talking to earlier said that when they were in Germany, don't speak a lot of German, but they can understand methanol. So it's more and more being talked about, and seen to be a solution that at least is easily pumped, easily stored, and doesn't quite have some of the adverse effects that some of the others have. So this just basically shows you the different, the three streams that we're talking about: ammonia, methanol, hydrogen. These are all kind of interrelated, to be perfectly honest. You can make hydrogen from ammonia, you can make hydrogen from methanol. It all depends how you want to do it and what best suits the operator. And then to really sort of sum it up and how it all gets looked at. So obviously you hear about sustainability. there's more and more focus, so it's, you know, it's like a double whammy. We want you all to use green fuels, but by the way, we want you to be sustainable as well. And there's many conversations going on around there. There's the energy efficiency as well. Some of the clients that we talk to, initially they're talking about changing onto a green fuel, but ultimately they're talking about using less of that fuel. So it's about the efficiency of the vessel, not just going onto a green fuel. It's like anything else. The fuels will cost money, and the less that you use, obviously the better it is. And well, overall of this, one of the things you've got to worry about is obviously the safety. Lots of people talk about the safety of stuff, but if you look at just the ammonia or you look at hydrogen, hydrogen is a little explosive. Hindenburg seems to ring with a lot of Americans, but ammonia has its issues as well. Ammonia, if it leaks and you're in the atmosphere, well, it could actually, unfortunately, kill you. And again, methanol has the advantage that it doesn't have quite some of these adverse effects. In the middle, it's the new technology that's going to be used to actually be able to, deliver. So IMO, if you read into it, it's about producing the fuel in a green way, actually delivering it in the right way, and then burn it. So it's not just measuring what's going up the stack. It's the whole life cycle. So from birth to smoke, basically. I put together a little bit just to give you an idea. So red is where the framework is not in place, for instance. There's a big call from the industry to make sure that some of these regulations. At the moment, if you talk to, for instance, the Coast Guard are actually looking at and want to make sure that things like the gas code is complied with. A lot of these fuels obviously have a low flash point. So when you have a low flash point, it obviously introduces a certain amount of risk. So they're looking, and that's what we look as well, is what is actually in place at the moment. It's very important. Obviously, we have rules on certain things like fuel cells and things like that, but it's also there are international codes, not only just for the transportation of it, but also used for burning of these these fuels. We basically come out with the 4 different ways that you've got to take into account to ensure that the vessel is actually going to be not only compliant, but actually is going to be a success. And there's some examples there. So when it comes to regulation, actually here in the United States, for the design side of it, the United States Coast Guard doesn't actually have any specific CFRs or that. They do refer, like I said, to things like the gas code and that. But it's an accepted practice, and this is how Hydrogen 1, for instance, is being done. It's basically a risk-based design approach. We use what we actually know and we understand. We take it from all sorts of different places, and we ensure that the risk is mitigated to the extent that it is now safe to use. It's very critical that you do that, because obviously you don't want to introduce a dangerous situation. California is a big green state, not very far from here, a bit further south. You can guarantee the requirements for California are actually going to be sort of introduced elsewhere as well. So you may not be building to operate in California at the moment, but as we've seen happen time and time again, the other states tend to follow what California does first. So you've got to keep in mind CARB.